I'm Dr. Connie. I'm your host of Mind Your Health podcast. I share my unique perspective both as a practitioner and a patient battling autoimmune condition for over 25 years because I had to figure things out on my own, and my education in my practical approach as a patient allows me to truly integrate it so that you can be whole and the burden of sick care is no longer your own burden to carry. And this is what we help you with in this podcast.
Hey everyone, so today I want to talk to you about the difference between stressful eating or eating when you're stressed to really shifting your state of being towards gratitude and then eating from that standpoint. So we talked a little bit more about stress last week, but I also want to sort of inject here regarding stress and how that stress plays an essential role in your state of being. And that state of being, how it can trigger lots of inflammatory cytokines or chemicals in the body to really cause you to gain weight through the cortisol, as well as insulin, which is insulin resistance and not having metabolic sufficiency, as well as your ability to digest and assimilate the foods that you take in. So a lot of people have leaky gut. And this is all number one thing that everybody has that we all understand today is the effect of stress in our not only our behavior, but it does affect our physiology in a way to affect our brain, to take our focus away from the thing that we want versus really perpetuating this hamster wheel like cycle of overeating, overindulging, overdrinking, all the things, right? So science of stress in eating has been around for a long time. And as even the registered dietitian that I am, I remember there's always an interdisciplinary approach to any type of diet. I worked with some eating disordered teenagers and early young women. And when talking to them, talking about body image, one thing that I realized that we all kind of understand is the psychology of what they believe themselves. So their perspective in what they look like is so different from who they are. I remember seeing a college student who's barely 80 pounds and she wanted to lose weight and do some Pilates with me. And I remember feeling so sick in my tummy because I felt like if I touched her wrong that I can break her wrist or break her, thigh bones because she was so skinny. And her mother was very adamant about sort of shielding her and doing things in the name of health and wellness to get her to do a little bit more eating and to get away from it. And it's a little bit of a bordering on that OCD. And I think it's all to do with the stress and stress with food and our relationship with food. Because the way we think about our food is, for most women anyway, I think everybody would understand that we are sort of defined by the number on the scale or our dress or jean size. And there's a little bit of shame when we have a little bit of a bulge or a little bit of a muffin top. And women get really troubled in their psyche as they approach the perimenopause and post-menopause stages because they're, it's almost like a spare tire around the middle. We joke amongst us women, and as that grows and nothing that they used to do works anymore. And that presents another type of stress. Here's where I'm going to take stress and eating is stress can come from your very effort to want to lose the weight, wanting to sort of live up to the standards of society, how everyone needs to be a size 4 or, weigh less than 120. Like, these are all things that we have in our minds. And I think it's time to really rethink the societal standards and shift our perspective towards how we really feel on the inside, right? Because that stress that we are subjecting ourselves to is the thing that is going to make us sicker and sicker and sicker. And today we're sort of bringing the topic of stress and juxtaposing or oppositionally discussing it with gratitude. How different the two can be when it comes to eating, right? The very ability coming from somebody who couldn't eat the things, somebody who had kidney failure, and I had to really rethink all the dietary patterns, and my elimination diet didn't work anymore. I had to go on what's called a kidney diet, which is very bland, and all the things that you thought were healthy, you're told you can't eat anymore. And I knew I couldn't lose any more weight, so I had to eat something. And so I needed to be very creative, number one. Number two, I had to diversify what I was eating. And I'm eating a whole different way, and I'm feeling my very best. And so this all comes from a place of being stressed and eating a certain way to now really being thankful for my ability to eat the way I want and move my body in that way really shifted my perspective. And when I shifted my perspective, I was able to physiologically change my inside to where I no longer have gut issues. It's the least of my problems, right? But really, we need to look at the patterns that we are so attached to and our disruptive thinking patterns and habits that perpetuate our cycle with negative thinking towards food. So we're causing more stress towards meal times than not. I have a lot of women friends and colleagues and employees that I worked with in my career. And I will tell you, having coming from a registered dietitian background, there are more eating disordered women in my clinical field who are registered dietitians than any other. Because number one, I remember being amongst the registered dietitians, all the other hospitalists, doctors, and other ancillary service practitioners would always come over to our table questioning what are they eating, assuming we're always choosing the right food, as if there's some magic bullet in what you're eating. And we all as a society, I think, when we think about whole foods, we think that's dieting, right? When in reality, whole foods are what nourishes you, and we should make better choices. So we really have to work on this ideology around food. Having said that though, having been in functional medicine for so long and having put the patients on elimination diets and this diet and that diet, including FODMAP diets and all the things, I just know that we're creating a lot more orthorexic patients who are scared to eat. I was one of those patients, and I was sicker and sicker and sicker and never felt good, and all in the name of health. And I thought I was doing all the things, but every time the mealtime came, I would be stressed to the max because I didn't know what was healthy or what wasn't. I remember drinking beet juice after getting in a fight with my ex. Pure beet juice that was supposed to be so healthy. I remember throwing it all up. Just beet juice. My body didn't take it. It wasn't absorbing it. We got into a huge fight just after I downed a big cup of beet juice to help me to really help my solar plexus at the time. And that happened. And then I remember the mess that I made in my kitchen. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is something to be focusing on, because not everything that is good in a very sick state of being can be absorbed properly to help my body be nourished, right? That was a very sick experience for me. And I also counseled and treated so many autoimmune patients who's gone to so many functional yoga medical practitioners, been put on every kind of diet there is, and there's all the books that they read. Well, the compliance is the number one thing, because what you have to remember with food is it's our memory, it's our comfort, it's our identity, and it's our connection, and it's a time shared with our loved ones, right? It's celebration. but it's a privilege to be able to eat whatever you want and be able to digest. And we've forgotten that our lungs, our liver, our gut, immune system all has the ability to take off what we don't need and only absorb what we do, right? But that inherent ability has gone south, so much so that a lot of people are having gut issues. Our hyper focus on the problem itself generated a bunch of medical practitioners who are telling patients what not to eat, focusing on the negative aspects of eliminating all the diets. I was guilty as charged. I did that for many, many years until I realized it's just not working. My patients are getting sicker. Where's the diversification? Where's the phytonutrients? Where's the healthy diet? Where's the whole foods, right? Because it got so bad that my patients were fearing the food industry as a whole. They wouldn't know what to eat at the end of the day. And I, as a practitioner, knowing as much as I did, I realized I'm not helping patients. I'm stressing them out to the max. So I want you to understand that chronic stress can come from your variability or your pursuit for health and wellness and chronic stress, which can have a lot of effect on your stress hormones, right? Not to mention the anxiety and the depression that comes from deprivation when it comes to food, and just fear in it of itself. Fear generates a lot of fight or flight response in the body. Well, there's no threat. Food is not a threat, right? Yes, we have packaged foods that's processed, but then it's broken down into so many different things. I'm not saying that that's not relevant. It's just the over obsession. We have a culture already that has a very different, or what do I want to say? It's a very dysfunctional way to look at the body. And we all perpetuate this negative body image and body shaming. And it's so subtly done under the radar that most women are subjecting themselves to it from the message from the media, right? And social media not making it any easier. Just understanding that stress in itself will have you craving sugary, fatty, and salty foods. That is what when the adrenals are fatigued, that's what you crave, right? Because you want that more stimulation, and that leads to high insulin production. That's why so many people have not necessarily diabetes, but insulin resistance for that reason, because their metabolism at the cellular level is not receptive to all the sugar that's coming in because of the high rise in insulin due to, initially when the adrenals are kind of overdriven, it becomes high cortisol where you don't have an appetite. But once their cortisol drops, that's when it becomes really inflammatory, driving the insulin production from the pancreas. And then you're craving all these sugary foods, then cells become not receptive to converting the food for energy. It just sort of becomes a metabolic hot mess as we know it, as insulin resistance leading to diabetes, right? So when you're in a state of chronic stress too, you end up craving those unwanted foods or unhealthy foods, so to speak, or not so good choices, I should say. Then you start to choose more unhealthy foods, right? Or not so optimal choices. You don't go for an apple, you want the chips, you want the potato chips, or you want the French fries, something with salt in it. And when you do a lot of salt or sugar, it not only feeds your microbiome in the wrong way possible, but you start to have water retention because your body, it has so much inflammation that it's not able to process. And that's what it means. Metabolic sufficiency is your ability to burn food for fuel. And if it's not converting that way because of metabolic insufficiency, well, it's not able to not only absorb the food, but it's like almost you're eating, but you're in this starvation state where everything is going to fat, right? Not only that, stress has been shown to research-wise to really produce stress eating patterns where we tend to overdrink, overeat, and that's all due to wanting to get away from the very feeling that we feel, which is negativity. We feel not good enough, unworthy. We're constantly, without even realizing, we're comparing ourselves to other people on social media. There's a lot of resentment, shame, guilt, all the things that floods you after you break from deprivation and you eat something you're not supposed to. So nobody said you never have to do anything. And I think our relationship with food needs to be looked at again in this way so that we can really foster more gratitude towards our eating, the ability to digest and allow our body to do what it's supposed to do. Utilize the foods that we consume in a way where it's going to energize us, help us feel really healthy, and have us moving at our best, looking and feeling our best. Again, feeling our best confident selves so that we can be true to ourselves and our own endeavors. Because physically, what it's going to do when you do start to have gratitude, that physiology of gratitude is improved sleep. When you have improved night's sleep and you're not tired, not only is your nervous system completely reset, but sleep is the time when your body is regenerating, you guys. Cellular divisions, regeneration, getting rid of all the old stuff, the gunk, in priming your body in your sleep to metabolically become more sufficient at the cellular level. Not only that, you have more immune function. When you think about stress and gut and digestion or digestive ability, I want you to understand when you're in a state of stress, your body is not providing the energy and the blood supply to the gut. In fact, it's taking the attention away from the gut into that fight or flight autonomic state. Remember, there's two sides to the autonomic state, which is the fight or flight or rest and digest. Going back to the improved sleep, Journal of Psychosomatic Research found that individuals who practice gratitude on the regular, they had improved sleep. So it's not my opinion, but these are all research validated. Second benefit of gratitude in eating is that it improves immune function. Positive emotions and positive thoughts allow our gut to be conducive to absorbing, assimilating, and eliminating what it doesn't need, and utilizing that metabolic energy, really using it for fuel as the currency to give us fuel to move and do all the things. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that individuals with positive outlook had better immune function than those who didn't. This is the fact with even cancer patients. There's a better outcome research found in those who had positive mindsets versus those who just accepted their prognoses, which is wait for that death sentence. Your time's limited, you'll have 3 months. And if they believe it, and then they go into depression and all the negativity around it, it's going to not go in their favor. Also, practicing gratitude lowers blood pressure because your heart is able to be more active, more efficient. And when your body and organs are more efficient because of the gratitude that you feel as a state of being, it's going to lower your blood pressure. A study published in Spirituality and Clinical Practice found that individuals who practiced gratitude had lower blood pressure. This is evidence-based, right? So the physiological difference is really profound between eating when you're stressed to eating with gratitude. But I think the better thing to really understand is our perspective around food, really more about our relationship with food, needs to be re-established on a global scale so that we can have a better, healthy, and more positive relationship conducive to our growth and to our evolution, as well as for our longevity and overall health. So When I say gratitude, it's nothing more than waking up, being able to drink this water, just not gulping mindlessly, but just being really thankful that I'm able to drink water and to have water when I need it, because there's a lot of people that are without clean water. When you're eating, outside of the fear of gaining the weight and consuming and overeating and overdrinking, you have to start to think about thanking the hands that prepared the food and really the universe for allowing this produce to be on your plate, and really being thankful for your ability to be able to have this abundant resource to be able to enjoy the food. Sometimes we forget the practical essentials, the foundations that make up our living, our essence of who we are, right? So it kind of brings you back to the basics. So I hope you guys understand the stark difference between stress eating versus eating with gratitude, and practice the latter instead. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave me comments. Love hearing from you.
Thank you for listening to the Mind Your Health podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, we would so much love it and appreciate it if you share it with someone who could benefit as well as to subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else where podcasts are found, and leave us a review. We would be so grateful, and it helps us to reach more people just like you, so you can become more empowered to enjoy longevity and health. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Dr. Connie Chung. And of course, you can subscribe to this podcast for a new episode every single